I think one of the things that holds a lot of agents back, especially in an insurance industry, is that they don't trust people. Yes, obviously there's bad people out there, but man, like you have to trust in people.
We saw you in Florida around Loede. We hung out with you a few days, and you were like, Murray, I really like that watch, that presidential watch. And I said, yeah, man, you got to get one. You said, by the time I come to see you in January, I'm going to have one. Not only did he get one, he got three. He got three, not presidential, but he got 3 Rolexes.
I mean,
what a legend. 10X. That's the only way to do it.
I just got to know what made you even fathom. You bet with us. I just got to know the guy. Like, so you left there, go to the store. So what was it? It's just like, first one come to mind. I'm going to grab it.
Yeah. I was just like, man, I need one.
It looks great.
I need one.
Yeah.
And then the first one was?
It was a Submariner. Yeah, it was actually
the black one.
Yeah.
And
then after that, I'm like, man, I really want a presidential yellow gold.
Yeah. My favorite one.
And then I wanted another one. It's like, and then I'm like, all right, that's enough. I'm good. You know?
I mean, it's just one of those things. Like we always have those. It's just funny how competitive we all are, but we're not. But it's also fun too, and you also have the means to do it. Because most people don't have that luxury. I mean, we just play around. I don't know what you dropped, but I know most people don't have those kind of funds. And it was just funny for you. We were talking about at dinner last night, and he just so nonchalantly was asking, "What'd you pay for that Sky Dweller?" It's just the coolest 20,000 ever. It's just like 20,000.
Yeah,
like who?
Here you go. That's a good price.
Like you just know it's just you just know it's just more than just that. But you know, that's like kind of the fun stuff from the rewards that we all share doing this. But man, most of my question to you, you know, being on this thing with you here is like, dude, your mindset is like next to no other. I want to know, like, how did you get wired that way? Because that's definitely how you handle your business and everything, and you're true to it, especially being at a young age. Because the one thing, you're super successful, ton of money. I know when I was that young, the world was a lot different. My mind wasn't straight focused on the business. Mine was more kind of like, you know, chasing like everyone else. So how do you do that where you're like, I can't think of anybody that I know of all the 4 basics, like spiritually, you know, like all of it. How?
Yeah. I mean, personally, it's just like continually learning, continually diving into information, continually listening to podcasts, audiobooks, reading books, listening to these highly successful people, like really just like for me, obviously it's Grant Cardone. For anyone that knows me, it's GC. You know, I got my little 10X pin on and like just literally like nonstop, just listening to information. And that's really, really structured me and gave me that foundation that I currently have. And it's never stopping, like continually learning.
So did you have like a mentor like before that? Like let's talk about like how were your steps? Like how actually,
the mentor
I'm sure you didn't just wake up and was
the
like, here, I want to go look at.
Yeah, I guess what EJ's trying to say is like, nobody that we know of just wakes up and it's like got this mindset. Mm-hmm. There was something that happened to you one day that something just clicked, and there was a moment in your life that boom, it happened, and you were like, oh, I know what I'm doing now. It's kind of like you ever seen a kid that gains consciousness? They're like playing in the playground, all of a sudden they're like, wait a second, where are we at? What's glue? Why is the sky blue? All this other thing. It's like you had this moment in time where you just were like, oh, I know what I'm doing now. Mm-hmm. And I'm just going to continue to learn. What was that moment for you?
So to answer EJ's question, my mentor when I was growing up, especially during the high school days, my mentor and my best friend was a drug dealer, unfortunately, you know. So I was at that point of like, and I was just sick and tired of being sick and tired, living in my parents' basement, you know, smoking weed on a daily basis multiple times. and I got introduced to insurance.
Mm.
And then next thing I know, I came across like Grant Cardone. And that was like the bridge of like where I was at to like, man, I see that there's another life that I could be living. And I see that there's so much more possibility and opportunity. And that gave me the pathway of like getting from where I was at to like really making those changes. Because I mean, from what I've learned, if you want to change, you just change. Make that decision.
Yeah. Well, it's a famous saying out there. One always says we're literally one decision away from going left or going right. And in our life, that's either being on the wrong side or the right side. And you kind of mentioned like how you're kind of on the left side. So as you were leaving that environment, going into your new endeavor, how did that go as far as all your friends and influences? Because I know that kind of would have been you had to make some hard decisions.
You had to cut some people off, I'm sure.
Like how
they
was
all
that?
got cut. All of them.
Yeah.
All of them. All those friends and acquaintances from high school, right when I moved to Charlotte, North Carolina, moved out there by myself, knew no one, literally living by myself for the first time, moved out there with just enough money for rent. Right when I did that, I saw like how quickly they dropped. And it was a good thing because it needed to happen. If I wanted to get to where I am now, and if you want to continue to level up in your life, you know, you're going to have to be continually sifting through assets and liabilities. People that are friends or enemies, right? And it's not even just your surroundings, but it's the actions and the activities that you do on a daily basis as well. Those actions and activities are either assets or liabilities. And, you know, something that I've learned from GC is like, even if it's an asset, it can turn to a liability.
Right.
And a liability can turn to an asset. So at some point in time, like you might have an asset, whether it's a friend, but, you know, unfortunately, like they can turn to a liability. And same with an action or activity that you're doing. Like, man, I love going to the gym, but say you start going to the gym for 4 hours a day, now it's a liability. Like you're not working on the business. You're not, you know, building all the other areas of your life.
Do you have a goal in mind? Is there a level that, you know, you haven't achieved yet? You said, when I get here, I'll be okay. Not to be complacent, but it's just like you've hit the goal that you thought was unreachable at one point, but now you're almost there, you know? And do you keep going after that?
Yeah, it reminds me of, you know, how when you keep achieving success, you keep realizing what your full potential is. Your potential just keeps growing and growing and growing. And for me personally, like you said, like, I'm like, wow, like, look at where I'm at now. But that doesn't mean you should stop. That means you should keep going
Right.
forward. And one of the goals that I personally write down every single day is like $100 million of passive income every month. So I can give back to my church, my charity, a community, an organization, a foundation, $10 million every month. Just give back in massive proportions. Is that unrealistic? It could be.
Well, no, but it also gives you a path to run on too, because if you see it every day, you think it, you live it. So if you were thinking about, well, maybe, you know, it's getting cold, it's raining down, maybe I'm thinking about hopping in my car and leaving, where you're like, well, if you have that in front of you, that pure passion and everything that you want, you're typically going to be like, well, I'm already out here anyway. You know, that'll just going to force you to keep going because you're super goal oriented and driven, where most folks kind of like don't go out there. And for me personally, when I didn't start actually writing stuff down, actually what I wanted, it was kind of like I'm sure you probably ran it through in your lifetime or so, because we all run off like emotion and things like that. But when you started like put something down, had a clear picture of it, it was so much easier to, like you said, get rid of those liabilities and everything and focus on an asset. And actually it came a lot faster because you're right, you're around those people, like you mentioned, that's want to see you succeed to actually go there instead of being those guys like, why are you doing that? Why are you doing that insurance thing? Because that's usually what I would get for a whole bunch of my friends, you know, coming up through. They're like, man, that's insane. Why would you, you know, I was working at a dealership, literally. I mean, on top of the world, as we would call it, I hit the pinnacle. Well, why would you leave that to start at zero, back at like grunt level and go all the way back up? Well, the hunger's always inside there. So I think for us, we never forget the how to, because once you hit the first, you know, they say the first 100,000 is the hardest to make, believe it or not. But once you have it, I mean, that blueprint is always going to be the same, no matter like what you do onto it, because you already know how to do it. What happens is it just happens to be faster because you've already hit those. I always say you always beat your face up on there, so you kind of already know. So if you have a guy like me or Murray that's coming in, like once we have already paved that way, it's a lot easier to transition over because we won't make half the mistakes, and again, you get to where you get to point B in less time from that. I definitely admire you from that. So as you left and went to Charlotte, as far as like your crew you left behind, was there any of those you actually thought about going back and trying to save? Because I feel, in my opinion, I know like the norm, like you start talking like that left side of the fence, like, well, maybe they can't do it. And I'm one of the guys that's like, depending on where you're at, maybe some people don't have the opportunity because they don't know, because it's where they were, they might have been brought up where they just didn't know. And if all I do is teach you like this the right way, this is the fast way, this is the fast money, you tend to going to go there versus like, well, you can kind of have them same thrills that, let's face it, most of those guys, they're in it for the thrill of the money. Well, there's a thing here where you can serve the people, also have that money too, but you don't have to look around, worry about if you're going to go to jail or anything like that. So, do any of your guys that you thought about even trying, because they already know how to run a business, let's just call it what it is. Yeah. I mean, the same principles still apply on those side of the tracks versus what we're doing, completely legal. So, did you ever thought about that?
There were moments. There were moments, but yeah, no.
So no second chance.
Leave it in the past. The past is a past for a reason. You don't want to ever, like, me personally, I don't want to ever go back to my past. I don't want to ever really visit it again.
Well, that's why your rear view mirror is only this small and your front windshield is this big. So you can see so much more in the front, and you can look in the past if you want, but it's so small. You shouldn't be focusing on that. You should be focused on what's in front of you.
It's a good way of looking at it. I mean, never really, even as I call myself the senior guy here, and you always get the wisdom, but I guess I never really looked at it that way. I'm always that type that I always see, like, always a good in somebody, sophomore, and after, like, I don't know, captain save somebody. Like, because I feel everybody can do what we do. It's just if they afforded, opportunity, mentorship. I just never understood the real importance of that.
Yeah, but you can only want it so bad for somebody else. Does that make sense? Like, my younger brother came in and he sat down with me at Cracker Barrel in Manning, South Carolina, which is the middle of nowhere. And he said, Matt, I'm working 65 hours a week at the pawn shop and I make $3,000 a month. He said, if I come work for you, all I really want is I want to be able to work less, working 65, I want to be able to work 50. I'm okay working 50. It gives me 15 extra hours with my family. Do you think I can make at least $3,000 of work with you, 50 hours a week? You know what I said? Maybe. Right? I said, because I can only want it so bad for you. I know that I could do it, right? But I don't know. Maybe you can do it. But I knew what was possible. So if you do, I'll tell you what, James, if you do what I tell you to do for 6 months, wake up when I tell you to wake up. You go run these leads the way I tell you to run these leads. You book these appointments the way I tell you to book the appointments. Call them when I come call. Do this presentation the exact same way that I show you how to do it. And if you do that for 50 hours a week and you make less than $3,000 a month, I'll write you a check for the difference. You know how many times I run my check?
Zero.
Yeah. He made $3,000 in his first week doing exactly the same thing. But I've had somebody else that got me into the business, okay? And he watched me just over time, just continue to grind. And he'd make me take him in the car. He'd make me like do things for him. And eventually when I started telling him, no, we can't do those things, and I started releasing him from my life, my business went like this. When I got rid of those people that I wanted it so bad for them because they helped me out at one point in my life. But when I got away from that and I started focusing more on myself, like Ryan's talking about, my business just, it was going like this. I was going up. But when I released that, boom, because a drowning man is always going to try to pull somebody down with them.
Yes.
Unknowingly.
Yep.
Unknowingly, they're just going to, if they're drowning and they see somebody in the boat and you give them a hand, they're not trying to pull up. They're trying to pull down. They think they're trying to pull up, but they're pulling you down, and then you can get sunk with them. So the quicker you can get away from those type of things, if you can notice it in your life and get far away from it, the better your business is going to be.
100%. 100%. Yeah, I mean, like you're saying, those are, like suppressive people that are trying to squash you, put you down, hold you back.
The thing is they may not know it.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be able to see it. You have to be able to recognize those people in your life and run from those people.
It's some of those folks too. I mean, just piggyback off what you guys are saying. It's not even like the more friends. It's mostly like your family. The people that's super close, which you would tend to think, like, how can I be? Like, I thought you loved me. And they're the one that's literally like, you can't do this. It's they call it other people's thoughts that will make sure that can hold a dream up from coming, because you're worried about other people's opinions, is a killer of all dreams. That's because
I got this great job. I know you're doing insurance, but I got this great job that you'd be really good at. And I know someone that can get you in, right? I got something for you. Luckily, my dad just always believed me. Every time I'd call him and go, hey, I believe in you. I love you. That was it. And he'd let me go my path because he knew that I was onto something. And even though I wasn't having success when I first started based on where I was at and had the best contract percent, but I was making good money. But every time I talked to him, he'd be like, hey, I love you. I believe in you. And that helped me so much, knowing that I had people who believed in me versus somebody else in my life, I'm not going to name who it is, that was my family members that said, hey, you need to go do something else. I think you might be better suited over here. I don't think that insurance thing is for you. And I almost listened, but I distanced myself far away from those people now. And guess what? Now I'm hanging out with you guys on this awesome podcast room, having a communication cycle. This is my
communication cycle.
I don't know if you know this, but that was our favorite part from Florida, was hanging out with you and getting communication cycles into our vernacular was the best part about Florida. So we loved hanging out with you in Florida, Ryan. It was an amazing time.
And I probably have a curveball here. I just got to ask you again, because I know me, super successful at everything I've ever touched. And for the people out there that's listening to this, I want to ask this question. We win it so much. Let's talk about the L's, because I think everybody probably thinks we always walk on water, that we never go through these same things. Can you touch on what was that like when you actually when you did hit one of those dips, or we call it, like for me, I can tell you mine. I always told this story. So for me, I'm learning final expense, and I was from the car business. So like we were taught to, ask for the moon, you'll at least get to the stars. So I'm there working at, a company, green background, by the way. So I always remember my thing was always offer the max. So it'd be $35,000, your X amount, your age, just how much it's going to cost you. $300-$400, they're up on the ceiling. So okay, we pull them down. I don't know this from the car business. This is what we do. Not a big thing. Well, I know I'm at 400, but how close can you get to that? And up to. So that was kind of like, I thought when I transitioned over to insurance, it almost worked like the same way. So yes, I saw tons of policies, and literally I thought I was like walking on water, because we know in final expense, I mean,
right, $250 apps.
Yeah, like that was a norm for me. 150, 125. They're like, how are you getting these high premiums? I'm just like,
I'm asking for it.
I just asked. And the funny thing is, I would say everybody has that day of reckoning, because we always talk about the sales, but we all know in our business, there's going to be some fall off. And then depending on how, if you're doing the right thing, you're making sure like they can afford it, not overselling it. Which obviously in this story, you'll find out how bad I was at this. So I'm there in Philadelphia, and in the mornings, like we get our commission statements. Sometimes it can be good and sometimes it can be bad. If it's a really good check, yeah, you're taking your Friday, you're off and going. But if it's the other way, that can literally mess your whole day up. So there I'm on reading my commission slip, and it's like literally with leads and chargebacks, I'm down $8,500.
One day.
I mean, literally waking up like, oh, I still have bills from before, kids and all that stuff. I'm like, man, before I hit before I make anything, I got to come up with $8,500. And I'm saying to myself, like, I don't know how I'm going to get out of this. First of all, what am I doing wrong? Because I'm selling. I see that potential there. We've all seen that. But it's just like, in the funniest thing, I remember calling my wife, Dina, and it's like, hey, we sold tons of policies, but I have this ton of fall off. Like, what's going on here? Help me out. And it's like the smallest thing I never really thought of to ask, which is sure is pretty valid. I didn't ask the client like how much they made. Because I was like, I don't know, I just felt some type of way that maybe that was intrusive or something, but I was just like, no, they told me they can afford this. Mm-hmm. I definitely poured concrete on it, but I didn't realize I was such of a good of a salesperson. Didn't matter what it was. They're going to buy it and then they would leave. So, most people in that pivotal point of their lives, we've all seen agents come in, literally, they get chargebacks and they're just scared to death. But I kind of looked, so, out of that situation for me, well, I learned two things there. It's cool to ask because if I would have known that Susie was making $800 and I'm leaving her out with $400, you ain't got to be the brightest one in the box to figure out this is probably going to fall off.
Right.
But it's just like little things like I just didn't thought of because you're such in the moment and things like that. So, like I said, for me, it was just like, oh, I'm $8,500 down. So how do we get through this? I still believed in the proof of concept, meaning we can help folks. I knew that was fine. So once you adjust it, it took me about a month and a half to get out of it. But it was smooth sailing all the way through. There've been days literally, it's back when I first started too. I didn't believe in appointments and all that stuff. Like you couldn't tell me to get on the phone. I was like, you're crazy. Because they're either going to hang up on me or they're going to tell me no, and that lead is dead. I had no idea really. I didn't understand the concept of really working it. That's why I love the door knock. But I always called door knocking like literally high stress, high reward because I would leave my house, no appointments, didn't know what was going on. So I didn't know if I was going to make money or not. When I made money, it was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And when you did make any money, you're like, really? Oh my God, I might have to look at a part-time job or something else. So have you had situations like that? I just watching you for so long, I always say you, Caleb, I just never really talked to you about.
Oh yeah.
What was that
Absolutely.
day? And then how'd you get out of it?
100%. Right when I got into the business, it took me like 3 months to make my first sale. I moved out to Charlotte, didn't have any sales knowledge, didn't have any communication skills. No, I was a introvert in high school. I hardly talked to anyone. Like I was very shy is what they told me. They labeled me as shy. Wow. Even though like I had the extroversion in me. But right when I moved out to Charlotte, North Carolina, literally it took like 3 months to make my first sale. I was buying like 10 leads a week, like trying to buy 10 leads a week. Right. Like who in their right mind is going to buy 10 leads a week? Like it's not going to get you anywhere. So it literally took me like 3 months to make my first sale. And the reason why is because I didn't really dive into information about learning about insurance. I was like, oh, I'm going to wing it. Right. I'm going to make it happen, because a lot of things that I do in my life, like I get great at it just by doing it. But there has to be some type of like tactical strategies that you have to use to actually become great at what you're doing, whether it's growing a business, hiring people, training people. So for me, it was like, those first 3 months, no sales whatsoever. I was driving 2 hours out from Charlotte to like the boonies, like Wilkes County, Boone County in the mountains and the country. Like it wasn't fun, but just decided at one point in time, like, man, I got to dive into this. I took weeks on weeks on weeks, months on months of just diving into, insurance training on YouTube. And I was taking like pages on pages of notes.
Crazy out there how much information there was before and after that's out there that agents don't even look at it because they always want to blame, like, it's your fault, Matt. You're supposed to put all that information you have in your head in mind, and I want it today, and I need to be making 10,000 today, not through there. So 2 months without a sale. I said that's a mindset in itself to go through that many no's.
Oh yeah,
and then once it collect, obviously, So what's it look? So what does it look? So what does Ryan Loede look like now? So is he still? What is it? What books are you reading? Like how much amount of time are you putting in there? Because
I read a book a week, 1 book a week. And basically what I do, I just see how many pages are in the book that I'm reading, divide it by 7, and I make sure I hit that target. I'm very target, orientated, as many people are, as you guys are as well. So it's very, very important to have those targets. Reading a book a week, I'm doing personal development courses, diving into sales training still. The books that I'm reading are the same books that I've been reading for the past 3-4 years. I just read them over and over and over again.
I think that was some liquid gold there because I know, like for me, I like all my favorite books, and as you tend to read it more than once, you tend to pick up more information than you ever thought that you would ever do. Like, man, I've read this like 6 times. Like, how did I just pick this up? What are some of your favorite books that you actually live or die by? So if there's a new agent out there, like, hey, I'm gonna start a new agent. I know there's gonna be pitfalls out there. What would be a good book?
So all the books I read are GC. I only have 1 book that is not GC. And that book is one of the books I would actually recommend, Beyond Positive Thinking by Dr. Robert Anthony. Absolutely gold. Like almost every other line in that book was fire. And then I would definitely recommend like 10X Rule and like Be Obsessed or Be Average.
You know what book, you'll know this book because Troy would rave about it.
Millionaire Mind.
Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker. Great book.
Yes.
But it was like the first, but Troy to me was the I don't want to say idol. He was the person that was like, this guy is having the most success. And whatever he said, even though I wasn't contractually aligned with him, he was, I'd call him today and he picked up. He loves me, right? But he would say, read this book over and over and over. But going back to what you said about you can read the same book over and over and get new knowledge out of it. I learned that my father had the same Bible. He's been reading the same Bible for 42 years. You know how many notes he has in it?
Thousands.
None. You know why? Because I said, Dad, why don't you have any notes about like things? And he said, because the pastor is interpreting this verse the way that he's interpreting it. And if I write it down next to that verse, every time I read that verse, I'm going to read that right after. And then I'm only going to be interpreted that way. But when I read it the next time, something else should be speaking to me. So I'm going to read it
like it's brand new.
Like it's brand new information. And it may be something new to me every time that I read it. And I thought that was super powerful.
Yeah, because you're viewing it in a new unit of time. You're a different person at that time. You're in a different
mindset.
Yeah,
something else going on in life.
Yep.
That when you read it, even though it's the same thing you read, maybe, and there's 42 years, he's read it hundreds of times, thousands of times. But he said, I don't want someone else to dictate how I view that passage or that line in that book, which I thought was super, super wise. And so all my books, I don't take any notes from then on. And so, like you said, every time you read that book over and over and over, the 10X rule, you can read it over and over. You can get new knowledge out of it every single time because there's something new in your life that's going on. And page 37 may be way different to you because if you divided it by 7, right? And that one was on page 7 that day and it was the end of your reading and you weren't really paying attention, but the next time you read it, you are in a different mindset. It might mean something totally different to you. So
it's different perspective and different, facets going in your life. It definitely hit it right on the head there. Like it's like one of my favorites, how I raised myself from failure. Frank Bradford. That's one of my top ones that literally changed my life. And it was crazy. It was almost on the realm of, you said, positive thinking. I think a lot of people out there literally take that for granted. Like it's not.
It's everything.
It's not the physical stuff. Because what we do, everybody needs it. So it's not like it's hard, but what we feed in our minds of this person can be home. I got to wake up today. All this rah, these leads suck. It doesn't. It's crazy of just the how to. So I believe you need to have a plan in place and people around just to teach that part, just the mental, just our mental.
100%. 100%.
The mental disposition.
Yeah.
That's right.
The mental fortitude that you need to become a business owner in the insurance or any business, to be honest. The mental fortitude that you need to make it is very, you got to be tough. And you have to have somebody that's done it and has the confidence in you before you have the confidence in yourself. My little brother said, I don't know, I don't have the confidence in myself. And I said, you can just borrow mine. I got it enough. You just have a little bit of mine. I got more than enough for you. I know you're going to make it, but you can borrow some of mine. And guess what? That mindset that I poured into him over and over, you can do it, you can do it, you can do it. Now when I call him, he's like, he's excited about business. But 2-3 years ago, he wasn't. He was worried because he was getting into something new. And so having somebody, myself to my younger brother, telling him you can do it, you can do it, you can do it, until they get it themselves, you have to have that person because there's a higher chance of success if they believe in themselves.
It reminds me of when I first started believing in myself. I didn't believe in myself at first. I didn't have any confidence, no certainty, coming right from out of high school or during high school. And then it's something that, my mentor says, like, you don't need to believe in yourself. You need to believe in me. So you got to believe in like someone else. I think that's big.
How do you shuffle through that? Because again, like with the things of social media and things like that, where anybody can be anybody. How do you know where to get your information from to know that it is authentic and not fluff?
Man, that's big.
How?
That's big.
So does anybody know, like, how do you guys see when you guys are, because you guys are a lot younger than me, y'all in that active social media role. So how does that play?
You go ahead, Ryan. I know my answer.
For me personally, it's like when people are saying things, I want to see them doing what they say. They're acting upon the words, the information that they put out. And that's one of the biggest things for me personally.
Yeah, and it kind of rings same to truth with authenticity, right? So we have Justin Brocken here, right? Has to be one of the most authentic dudes I've ever seen in my entire life. He's talking about the things that he's doing on social media. You see all these things, and then you meet him, and he's the exact same dude. And he's authentic, and he's got a team around him, and they're doing sales. Some of his guys are selling on the couch out there, like just sold 2 hit plans and stuff like. They're killers, they're go-getters, right? Yeah. And same thing with like Tyler, right? Like you go talk to Tyler, and he's like just feeding you information and giving you ideas and opening up your mind in different ways. And you're like, man, this guy is like, I'm getting more information than I ever thought I would. I came in with this mindset, but I left with this. I'm on a whole new path now. And so for me, it's just vetting those people out and seeing them in real time and seeing how they act. I kind of view it like, I like to watch people. I'm a people watcher, even though I'm usually in front of somebody or talking to somebody. I'm viewing how someone is viewing you, or I'm watching them from afar when they don't know that I'm watching them, and seeing how they act when they don't know they're being watched. And if I see that authenticity, then that's someone that I want to be around. Justin's one of those people. You're one of those people. Tyler's one of those people. You're one of those people. I've seen EJ do things for people. I mean, some of the nicest dude I've ever seen in my entire life would bend over backwards for people, but he doesn't document it. He doesn't, and that's better to me because he doesn't have to. I just know he's a good dude because I've seen it, but he doesn't have to go on social media and say I did this. He just does it, and that authenticity from you guys is what I try to gravitate to. I hang around people like you because it makes me better over time.
I'll second that one, man.
Oh,
where's the boom?
Hey, there we go.
Dropping bombs with Matthew Murray. Is that copyrighted? I'm not sure. We'll see. I don't think he watches the podcast, but that was good. But EJ, I know you're pushing me all day to do this, and this is my I think 5th podcast of the day, and I was like, Man, I'm like exhausted. Like, do we have to do this? And EJ's like, sit in the booth, Murray. This is going to be some fire content. And it was. So I appreciate you, making me sit down, for the last time for the day and sitting down with you, Ryan Loede, and just trying to figure out the mindset of Ryan. But it's really simple.
Mm-hmm.
What you do is really,
Keep it simple.
keep it simple.
Stupid simple.
It's ones and zeros.
Yep.
It's yes or no. Very, very simple equation. And when you figure that out, that it ain't that tough, you just got to go for it, believe in yourself, buy the leads, do the things that the people told you, your mentors told you to do, because they've carved out the path before. You just got to follow the path. Someone's blazed the trail long before you did, and they can teach you what took them 15 years to do, you can do in 3.
Mm-hmm.
And then with your mindset, you can do it in a year. And then you can teach other people how to do it. And then that's going to propel your business. So it's just,
I think one of the things that holds a lot of agents back, especially in an insurance industry,
Mm-hmm.
is that they don't trust people.
Mm.
Yes, obviously there's bad people out there, but man, like you have to trust in people. Like people, especially people that are authentic, they're real, like they want to help other people.
Right.
Bottom line.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have that standpoint from previous experience. It's like when you're dealing with a client. Clients sometimes don't want to trust you because they had a bad previous experience.
Mm.
Humans are the same way with, doing business or taking advice from other people. You can't just not trust people from the get-go. Like there has to be some point of like, all right, I'm going to trust this person. Seems like he knows what he's doing. And I'm gonna trust him and roll with it.
Right.
A lot of people don't create success because they don't trust people.
And guess what? It may not work out all the time. And if it doesn't, then
You're gonna know quicker or not.
Right.
Whether it's good or not.
Exactly. By the way, Brian, those past 2 times that I pressed the button were bombs. He said last time he couldn't do it, so put the bomb in there because those are two fire bombs. Well, guys, I appreciate you guys, sitting down with me on this wonderful Wednesday afternoon, 5:30.
Oh, wow.
We're going to get, I love the watch.
I didn't know it was Wednesday.
It is Wednesday.
What time is it?
It says right on the top there when it says Wednesday, your presidential watch. But we're going to go get some food tonight at an Italian restaurant. Sit down. We got 20 people in town right now, and just
Wish we could just take a mic there.
Just take the mic there.
Imagine how much nugs.
Oh man, just anywhere you sit on that table, it's just massively successful people in the insurance industry. It doesn't matter where you sit, you're going to get something that you didn't have before. Mm-hmm. And so getting in the room, getting in front of those people are where you're going to gain the most knowledge. So thanks again, guys.
Oh man.
Appreciate
Thanks for having us back on.
Absolutely.
Let's roll.